Hey to all the spooks out there, I'm Ange.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is Spine Chilling Chats, your go-to podcast for all things spine chilling. From true crime to haunted history, dark legends and folklore, we dabble in a little bit of everything.
Except happy stuff.
Rainbows and butterflies.
Well, my guy friend had just pointed that out. Why don't you cover something happy?
Because then it would be spine chilling
What
chats.
I said that's just not what we do. So.
And why do you keep calling him your guy friend? He's your boyfriend.
He's my boyfriend. And I actually could say his name if I wanted to. But
Yep.
I'm not going to. Not yet. Not till next week, guys.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. You're now part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
If this isn't your first time, welcome back. We love hanging out with you guys each week.
Yes. And you're part of the family.
Yeah.
That's what Manson called his followers.
Yes.
Family.
Yes.
So,
Family's important.
yes, it is.
Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I mean, not when we're recording, but when this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're so thankful for all of you guys and the togetherness that Thanksgiving brings to people all over the country. But we mustn't forget the dark truth, the murderous beginnings that our beloved Gobble Till You Wobble Day was built upon. So pull up a chair at our table and pour yourself a glass of wine as we delve deep into Thanksgiving's dark history.
And after the history, I have Thanksgiving murders to cover. And my boyfriend, he said, oh, well, you're covering Thanksgiving, so that's happy. I said, obviously you don't know the history of Thanksgiving, so we'll see about that.
Yes. To be young and naive.
I know, right? He's older than us.
So everyone knows the story we were told in elementary school of how the first Thanksgiving came around. I remember making the little paper pilgrim hats and the indigenous people, the headbands or headdresses that they would wear. We would make little feathers out of paper, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we would wear that for our little class Thanksgiving parties.
Which they don't really do anymore. They do the Halloween. They call them, what do they call them? Harvest party.
Aurora's is Thanksgiving something. It's
They
not.
don't do a Halloween party or a Thanksgiving
party.
It's a harvest party.
Yeah, something like that. So the Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth Rock after crossing the ocean on the Mayflower after fleeing religious persecution in December of 1620. They survived a harsh winter where many lives were lost. They were met by friendly indigenous people who helped the Pilgrims get their footing in this new land and shared the first harvest together in a feast, later becoming the first Thanksgiving.
So fun fact, I'm sure you already know this, but my sister is an indigenous.
Yeah, you told me.
I'm going to look up what she is. Keep going.
But this isn't exactly how it really went down. So when the English Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth Rock, they encountered the Wampanoag people who had already been devastated by disease brought by earlier colonizers to settle on their lands. Although the Wampanoag helped the Pilgrims survive their first winter, the relationship was not entirely friendly. Over time, European settlers took over more land and resources, often at the expense of the native tribes. So when the Pilgrims arrived, they claimed the land they settled on as their own, which had already been inhabited and maintained by the Wampanoag people for generations. So this included using cleared fields and taking over the land of the Patuxet tribe, which I'm sorry if I say any of these words incorrectly. It's not out of disrespect. It's just out of my own ignorance and just not knowing how to pronounce them. Which was part of the Wampanoag Confederacy, but had been recently decimated by the plague, probably a smallpox plague. that was brought by earlier European contact. The Pilgrims also raided indigenous graves, taking corn and other supplies that were buried with their dead. For the Wampanoag, this was deeply disrespectful, obviously, as it disrupted both their traditions and their sacred burial grounds.
That's sick.
Yeah.
My sister is Ojibwe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. For you guys that don't know, my sister is half indigenous, half Puerto Rican. So she's this beautiful, dark hair, very brown skin, and just, I'm jealous. But yeah, so my sister is Ojibwe.
Does she practice any of the traditions from that side?
She does not, because it's a long, crazy story, but her dad didn't claim her after she turned 2 years old. And then he came back into her life when she was 16, and then he got colon cancer and died. So she didn't really get a lot of information on it. And then she was talking to her grandma about it and her aunt. Well, then I think her grandma passed away. So now she only has her uncle left.
So just not a lot of contact with that
Yeah.
side.
So she wants to learn. Like, she wants to learn more. She's trying to figure out a way how to learn more about her culture. And so hopefully she can find some answers. I told her I would help her, even though it's not my family. I told her I would help her.
Because she's
Whatever.
your family.
Because she's my family, yeah.
Yep.
So,
While the Pilgrims didn't directly spread diseases during these first years, European diseases had already devastated indigenous populations in New England, with an estimated of 90% of the local indigenous population killed by outbreaks in the early years leading up to the Pilgrims' arrival. The surviving Wampanoag were left weakened and vulnerable, both physically and politically. This made them more reliant on and susceptible to the Pilgrims setting up an unequal relationship where the indigenous population had to make difficult choices to protect their own communities from further harm. After initial tensions, the Wampanoag leader Massasoit entered into an alliance with the Pilgrims. He saw this as a way to protect his people from rival tribes and maintain some autonomy. The Wampanoag shared food, knowledge, and skills, including agricultural techniques that were essential for the Pilgrim survival. Although initially peaceful, this relationship grew more imbalanced over time as more settlers arrived. They began to encroach upon the Wampanoag lands, breaking agreements and disregarding indigenous practices and authority. So they're just coming over and they're taking over. They don't care. Although no direct hostilities broke out between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag during this period, the Pilgrims' presence laid the groundwork for future conflicts. The alliance eventually soured as colonists demanded more land, leading to tensions and violence over the next few decades. The Wampanoag and other tribes would later face severe consequences, including loss of land, forced conversions to Christianity, and complete undermining of their sovereignty.
yeah.
This culminated in King Philip's War, which was from 1675 to 1676, a brutal conflict in which the Wampanoag and other tribes fought for survival, but ultimately faced devastating losses. The actions of the Pilgrims and their treatment of the Wampanoag set in motion the cycle of broken promises and exploitation. The friendship often depicted in Thanksgiving stories overlooks the Pilgrims' disregard for Wampanoag traditions and land, creating a power imbalance that would only deepen with time. So you're probably wondering, what was the first Thanksgiving really like? The first Thanksgiving in 1621 was different from today's holiday in many ways. It wasn't a formal holiday or even referred to as Thanksgiving, and it likely looked very different from the warm, harmonious feast often depicted. The gathering between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag was likely a 3-day harvest celebration held in the fall of 1621. The Pilgrims, who had barely survived their first year due to hard conditions, 50 of the 104 did not make it. So over half died over that winter. They were celebrating a successful harvest with the help of the Wampanoag, who had taught them critical survival skills. It wasn't a yearly tradition. It was a one-time, even in recognition of survival and abundance after their hard journey and initial struggles in the New World. About 90 Wampanoag men, led by their leader Massasoit, arrived at Plymouth perhaps unexpectedly. The Pilgrims were a group of around 50, so the Wampanoag significantly outnumbered them. Historical records suggest that the Pilgrims didn't formally invite them. Instead, the Wampanoag may have joined upon hearing gunfire from the Pilgrims' celebratory hunting. The Wampanoag likely saw this as a possible threat and came prepared to, fight, to battle it out. When they realized it was a celebration, they decided to stay and contributed 5 deer to the feast. So really, we should be eating deer tomorrow and not turkey.
Right. And my boyfriend said, "What do you need for Thanksgiving? You need deer? I got you." So he said, if you want a deer, I'll give it to you.
Tell him, bring it over.
So he's a hunter.
I've only ever cooked, I think it was a backstrap once. And it was so dry because I don't know how to cook it. I've never cooked it before. And it didn't turn out very good.
Well, he asked what we needed for Thanksgiving. And he said that he could help.
Could you imagine just like
slapping a whole deer on the table,
like you do a turkey? The apple in his mouth. The food was vastly different from the traditional Thanksgiving meal we eat today. There was no turkey as a centerpiece. Instead, they ate the venison from the deer provided by the Wampanoag, various types of fowl, most likely ducks and geese, seafood, because it was right on the coast, so they had like mussels and fish and lobster, and corn-based dishes. There were no potatoes, cranberries, at least how we prepare them today, or pumpkin pies, as the Pilgrims had neither sugar nor ovens for baking pastries. Instead, their meal would have been based on what was available locally, including native squashes and nuts. Pilgrims held their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had threatened the year's harvest and prompted Governor Bradford to call for a religious fast. Days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual or occasional basis became common practice in other New England settlements as well. During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress designated one or more days of Thanksgiving a year, and in 1789, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. In it, he called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the happy conclusion to the country's War of Independence and the successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution. His successors, John Adams and James Madison, also designated days of thanks during their presidencies. In 1817, New York became the first of several states to officially adopt an annual Thanksgiving holiday. Each celebrated it on a different day, however, and the American South remained largely unfamiliar with the tradition. In 1827, the noted magazine editor and prolific writer Sarah Josepha Hale, author among countless of other things of the nursery rhyme Mary Had a Little Lamb, launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national holiday. For 36 years, she published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians, earning her the nickname the Mother of Thanksgiving. When I think the Mother of Thanksgiving, I think of Joey Tribbiani wearing Phoebe Buffay's maternity pants, and he called them his turkey pants.
Turkey pants. Yep.
He's the real mother of Thanksgiving.
Yes, he is. I love that one. Or the where he gets the turkey stuck on his head.
And then Monica puts on her head, and she's...
We're nerds. It's fine.
It was such a good show.
We like it. I still watch it every night.
You know, but it would not do well now.
Oh, no. Kids nowadays.
It's so not politically okay.
Oh, no.
But it was good then.
I still watch it every night.
I don't watch it every night, but I watch it occasionally.
It's on Nickelodeon every night at 9 o'clock.
I don't know. I like watching when sometimes I see reels of it on Facebook, and I like to watch those. Abraham Lincoln finally heeded her request in 1863 at the height of the Civil War in a proclamation entreating all Americans to ask God to commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife. Is that how you pronounce that? Lamentable?
That's how I would say it.
Lamentable. And to heal the wounds of the nation. He scheduled Thanksgiving for the final Thursday in November, and it was celebrated on that day every year until 1939, when Franklin D. Roosevelt moved the holiday up a week in an attempt to spur retail sales during the Great Depression. Roosevelt's plan, known derisively as Franksgiving, was met with passionate opposition. And in 1941, the president reluctantly signed the bill making Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday in November, as it is today. Thanksgiving is often portrayed as a time of unity and gratitude, but the holiday's origins tell a darker story of conflict and hardship that contrasts with the rosy narratives we often hear. While many today see it as a time for family and celebration, Thanksgiving can sometimes bring unresolved tensions to the surface with devastating consequences. Just as the history of Thanksgiving is marked by complexities, so too has the holiday occasionally become the backdrop for violence, with several tragic events unfolding over the years. Amanda is now going to share some of these unsettling stories that serve as grim reminders of the conflicts Thanksgiving can evoke. It's all you, girl.
So, and speaking of Thanksgiving being the fourth Thursday or whatever, not that it makes a difference, but Ezra was supposed to be born on November 28th, which was 3 days after Thanksgiving that year, right? Yeah. And so I'm all like, yeah, like he's not due till the 28th, and like people go out for Thanksgiving. So I was like, oh, I'll be the DD because I'm pregnant, like blah, blah, blah. And at 3:15 or 3:50, we didn't get home till after midnight. I went into labor, and that was November 26th. It was the day after Thanksgiving.
Black Friday.
So I didn't get to go shopping. I ate too much food. I was tired. It was a hot freaking mess.
See, and
I still did it naturally, even though I was so tired. So tired.
I was pregnant for Thanksgiving with Aurora, and I was all excited because I was like, oh, I'm going to have an excuse to really like eat so much. And like I tried so hard, and immediately after I finished, I had to throw up.
Yeah, because they're pushing.
Yeah. Like
imagine I was 9 months pregnant trying to eat, and yeah, I ate, and I was so full, but like I couldn't eat like I used to eat in the past.
Yeah, and I was so upset. I just bawled and bawled because I just didn't get to even enjoy my Thanksgiving dinner. I just threw it all up.
Yep. Well, and now my baby boy's birthday is Tuesday, or was when this is being
put out.
So yesterday, and he just turned 20.
Yeah, he's getting old.
Yeah. Old. All right, I gotta move my lap. I don't wanna like read from this side, so I'm gonna. Okay, I have 2 murders that happened on Thanksgiving. There's trigger warning about dismemberment and obviously murder and cannibalism.
Oh, we started to talk about cannibalism on Thanksgiving.
All right, so the first one is called the Guy Family Thanksgiving Killings. I was gonna say massacre, but there was only 2 people that died, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's not really bad.
This is from Knoxville, Tennessee, 2016. Joel Guy Jr., who's 28 years old, lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He went back home to Knoxville for Thanksgiving along with his 3 sisters. Now, his sisters already lived in Tennessee, but his 3 sisters and his parents, they all went to Thanksgiving. At the end of the night, the sisters who lived in Tennessee went home, and Guy Jr. stayed with his parents, who were 61-year-old Joel Guy Sr. and 55-year-old Lisa Guy. All of a sudden, violence ensued. And sometime between Thursday night and Monday afternoon, the sheriff's department claims Guy Jr. stabbed, dismembered his parents, and then attempted to dissolve their bodies in a mixture of drain cleaner, sewer cleaner, hydrogen peroxide, and bleach. Yeah. Guy Jr. was an undergraduate in college and still depended on his parents for financial support.
Apparently not in chemistry and
no, clearly.
college.
Some family members told the police that his parents were going to tell him that they were going to cut back on helping him over the holiday weekend. So as of March 2017, he murdered them because they were going to not stop but cut back supporting him financially, and he didn't like that.
He'd have to be a big boy and get a job and
because he was
not spend so much.
28 years old. Like, even my 20-year-old supports himself financially, and if he needs help, of course I'm going to help him, but when he needs help, it's usually just because he spent all his money on his bills. So he's like, can I have money to go out to eat? Can I have money to go to the movies? Like, and it's really not even that often. It's like once a month. So yeah, he does pretty good, and he's only 20. Joel Guy Jr. So family members told the police that his parents were going to tell him that they were going to cut back on helping him. As of March 2017, he's still being charged. He's being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of abusing a corpse, and 2 counts of felony murder. He has no history of mental illness and no prior criminal records. Sociologist Richard Gelles, an expert on family violence, has written over 20 books on the topic, says that the shame is probably more likely the motive more than losing the money. So he was more ashamed of himself than anything.
Yeah.
Gelles says that, quote, the conversation had a lot more than, we're not paying your phone bill. He also says that I suspect there was a shaming component to it, and that triggered his behavior. If you dig into the psychology of family violence, the more common underlying psychological factor is shame. So as of the original article being published, Guy Jr. remains in jail with a $2 million bond, and the next court date's November 30th of 2017. But there was an update. As of November of 2018, he's still in jail, and the next court date is December 3rd, 2018. So obviously this is an old one, but he's still in jail. Now this next one, I know that was a quick one. This next one has the cannibalism and also dismemberment, and she's just really a piece of work.
I just see your title there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys.
Oops.
This is going to make you guys hurt. I'm not quite sure how to say this. She was an Egyptian model, and her name is Omema.
That's how to say it.
Omema Nelson, the model who killed, castrated, and ate her husband for Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving Day, 1991, Egyptian-born fashion model Omema Nelson, who was 23, repeatedly stabbed with a pair of scissors in his chest and stomach Bill Nelson, her 56-year-old pilot husband, and then reached for a clothing iron. As Bill flailed around, she beat him with the iron until the iron broke in her hand. How hard do you think she had to be hitting him for the iron to break in her hand?
Right.
She claims she did this because of the sexual terror and other abuse that Bill subjected her to, including pimping her out for old kinky creeps for rent, cash, and in one case, a car. She said he was a BDSM enthusiast as well, who bound her to the wall and raped her. She claimed that Bill had raped her the morning of the killing on Thanksgiving. She was in fear for her life that he was going to kill her. After Bill died, Omami cut up his body on the kitchen floor, boiled his hands in oil to remove his fingerprints, put his head in the freezer so she could later bust out his teeth, and then castrated him. She stuffed some body parts into trash bags and put others down the garbage disposal. She thought, I haven't eaten today. I think I'll eat some barbecue ribs. She cooked them in the oven, and upon biting into them, she declared, "It's so sweet."
Ugh.
At the time of all this, they had only known each other for 5 weeks, with 3 of them being married, which less than 3 of them were married. So they had been married for less than 3 weeks. They had known each other for 5 weeks, and all this happened.
Maybe you shouldn't marry somebody that you just met. Maybe you should get to know somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Over the next couple of days, she had a few, not one, but a few ex-boyfriends come help her get rid of the rest of Bill's body.
Who would do that?
Apparently, she's got some hold over him.
Mm-hmm.
But on December 1st, the police got a tip of some body parts being found in a car that was owned by Bill. She claimed self-defense. The Orange County deputies said that she was a scam artist that preyed on men by using bondage sex games to rob them. At the time of the killing, she faced 3 felony charges on a 1990 incident in which she tied up an ex, slapped him around, and demanded money at gunpoint. So what are these exes still helping her for? I don't know, because if an ex claims she did that, I could assume she did that to all her exes. The details became more sordid when she claimed she had put a red hat, red dress, and red shoes on before prepping and cooking Bill's rib meat. She said, "I did his ribs just like in the restaurant. It's so sweet. It's so delicious. I like mine tender." The psychiatrist said Omami was in a psychotic state, and that in 20 years of his experience, he had never conversed with such a subject so bizarre and so psychotic. His words. The defense painted a horrific picture of her childhood in Egypt, saying that she was subject to female genital mutilation or clitoral circumcision.
Yeah, I've heard stories of that.
Oh, could you imagine?
No.
Mm-mm. Submitted herself to loathsome sexual humiliations in order to survive. The defense also said that Bill was a sick sadist who tortured his wife sexually, physically, and psychologically. Like, one example was when they were driving, Bill took Omami's newly adopted kitten and threw it out the moving car window.
Aww.
6 days after the court adjourned, the jury came back on January 4th, 1993, and declared her guilty of second-degree murder. The jury foreman, Famous Hooks, that's his name, Famous Hooks. Isn't that kind of a cool name?
Yeah, that's weird. Who names their kid Famous?
Oh, that's funny. Said,
famous cookies.
Yeah. Famous Hooks said, "It was really a tough decision. We couldn't come back with the first-degree murder verdict because we couldn't find the evidence. It wasn't there. It took us 6 days. We worked really hard." She was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. Since being put in jail, she denies eating Bill. When she was up for parole, she claimed that she is not a monster, and she's expected to serve the remainder of her sentence.
Sheesh.
So no getting out early for her. Okay. So another one is the Mahari Gebrselassie.
Mahari Gebrselassie, yeah, family.
Thanksgiving. This one was in Oakland, California in 2006. There were 2 different families, the Eritrean families who were joined by marriage, ended with a triple murder and a sibling pair in prison for first-degree murder. I don't know how to say these names. Esmerum and Twodoros Gebreselassie, 53 and 44, killed their sister-in-law, Winta Mahari, who was 28. Her mother, Regbi Berengasi, who was 50, and her brother, Jonas Mahari, who was 17. And this was at their Thanksgiving. The brothers were 2 of the 11 siblings
Oh my.
who immigrated to Oakland. They thought that Winta had killed her husband, their brother, Abraham Gabrielesi, earlier in the year to gain access to his $500,000 life insurance policy. But they said that Abraham had died of natural causes. Tuordos was invited to the Mahari Thanksgiving, and upon opening the door into the apartment, he kidnapped the infant nephew while his brother gunned down the others. The brothers were found guilty in 2011 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2016, Tuordos was released from prison after his his conviction was overthrown and his prison sentence was revised. They played Christmas songs after dinner at an old upright piano, and then came the carnage. Paul Mering, who was 35, was heard saying under his breath as he gunned down 4 and injured 2 at the cousin's family home in Jupiter, Florida, "I've been waiting 20 years to do this." The people that had died were 76-year-old aunt Raymond Joseph, 33-year-old twin sisters Carla Mering and Lisa Knight, who was pregnant, and 6-year-old Michaela Sitton, the daughter of his cousin, who was shot 3 times from her bed. Paul, at the dinner, his presence had been a surprise. He had been estranged from his family. His sisters had put a restraining order against him. He had called weeks before the holiday and asked his parents if he could come to Thanksgiving, and he had purchased $2,000 worth of guns and ammunition. His mother, Carol, had told his sister, Lisa, as they were preparing dinner, "I hope he doesn't come and kill us all tonight." How fucked up is that? Because it happens.
Yeah.
"It came to my mind," replied Lisa, "but don't say that to Dad." Isn't that crazy?
Talk about a premonition.
Oof. In 2011, Paul pleaded guilty to all the murders and received a sentence of 7 life terms. He avoided the death penalty because he pled guilty. Gellis says that he likely suffered from borderline personality disorder, and estranged family members who returned to kill often do so after failing to move on independently. The betting line is that there has been a series of stressful events that led him to be estranged from his family, and if he came back with the intent of killing, it's because his inability to self-soothe these grievances. Borderlines cannot self-soothe when their self-esteem has been attacked. That's what Gelly said. For those of you who have been unsettled by the murders, said they're not entirely random. Social isolation, low socioeconomic status, and youth all correlate with family violence. Because remember, he wrote over 20 books and he specializes in family violence. Either because life circumstances have changed or the consequences do, but people tend to mature out of their violent behavior, Gelly says. For those eating Thanksgiving with older relatives, there's one more thing to be thankful for this year. You got one?
Murders of Haley Kiefer and Nicholas Brady occurred on Thanksgiving Day of 2012 when Haley Kiefer, 18, and her cousin Nicholas Brady, 17, broke into the home of 64-year-old Byron David Smith in Little Falls, Minnesota. Smith shot the teens separately and 10 minutes apart as they entered the basement where he was later stating to police that he was worried about them being armed. After already shooting them once, he repeatedly taunted them while they were injured as he shot them both in an execution style until they were dead. He did not report that he had killed Kiefer and Brady until the day after the murders, keeping their corpses in his closet.
What?
On April 29, 2014, he was found guilty of 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life prison without the possibility of parole. This case sparked debate over the castle doctrine, which allows homeowners to defend their homes with lethal force. This prosecution alleged that Smith's actions and a recording he made himself while the incidents were unfolding showed premeditation, in that he used excessive force after having neutralized the threat. He was convicted by jury after 3 hours of deliberation and sentenced to life in prison. So Smith was born June 11th, 1948, and was retired from the U.S. State Department. He was never married and lived alone. His brother described him as a retired security engineering officer. Smith claimed at trial that prior to the murders, he had been burgled at least half a dozen times over the preceding few months. He had reported only one previous burglary to police, and investigators found evidence of only 2 previous burglaries, one of which occurred in his detached garage, and of which he appeared to have no knowledge when it was brought up by police. Among the items stolen were $4,000 in cash, his father's prisoner of war watch, coins from a collection, and a chainsaw.
How do you get a POW watch? Like, you were a prisoner of war, here's a gift for you. Like, I don't understand. Usually they get medals and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking anything. I just don't understand the concept of it, I guess.
The POW, no, I was going to say. Because it says POW watch. I just assumed it meant prisoner of war, but yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, it is prisoner of war. But I just was curious, who would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind it?
Thanks for going through that trauma.
Here's a watch.
Have a watch. So you can remember the time.
Right.
When you were
a prisoner of war.
Fearful of your life.
Didn't know if you were going to live or die. I don't understand the concept behind it. So if anybody knows, please let us know and enlighten us, because we like to know. Knowledge is power. Let us know. We're not trying to be condescending or insensitive. I legit am curious.
Smith began routinely wearing a holster and a loaded gun inside his home, as well as stashing bottles of water and granola bars in his basement. Smith installed a security system to protect himself. On November 22, 2012, Smith drove his vehicle down the road, parking it in front of a neighbor's home. About an hour later, Kiefer and Brady broke into Smith's home. Video surveillance captured the teens casing the property prior to the break-in. By his own account to police, Smith had been visiting neighbors when he saw Kiefer, whom he suspected was responsible for the burglaries, driving past his home. He commented that he needed to get ready for her and went back to his home. Upon entering his home, Smith turned on a recording device he owned. He removed the light bulbs in the ceiling lights and positioned himself in a chair that was obscured from view. He heard the window upstairs break and Brady climb in, captured on audio. Smith then waited in silence for 12 minutes until Brady began to descend into the basement. Smith shot Brady twice on the stairs and once in the head after he fell to the bottom of the stairs.
Jesus.
Smith then made taunting remarks to Brady's body, wrapped it in a tarp, and dragged him into another room. He went upstairs, and 10 to 15 minutes later, he ran back down into the basement, reloaded his weapon, and took up his previous position in the obscure chair. Minutes later, Kiefer entered the home and could be heard calling her cousin's name. As she made her way down the stairs, Smith shot her. Wounded, she fell down the stairs, and Smith can be heard on the recording sarcastically saying, "Oh, sorry about that," following by Kiefer saying, "Oh my God," very quickly. Smith shoots her again multiple times in the torso, in the midst of which she screams, "Oh my God," and once next to her left eye. Oh my gosh. He repeatedly called her derogatory names and then dragged her into the other room, tossing the body on top of her cousin's, and shot her one final time under the chin, murdering her. Audio of the events were recorded by Smith's security system.
Oh, I wonder if that's available.
I don't know. Smith's statements to the police described delivering the fatal blows to the heads of both teens after he had shot them on the stairs and they lay wounded on the basement floor. In his statement, Smith said that Kiefer had let out a short laugh after he fell down the stairs, saying, if you're trying to shoot somebody and they laugh at you, you go again." The audio tape did not record Kiefer laughing. Instead, she cries, "Oh my God," very rapidly in fear. In police interviews, Smith acknowledged firing more shots than I needed to, and that he fired a good, clean finishing shot into Kiefer's head. Legal analysts have stated that the initial shootings most likely should have been justified under Minnesota's laws, but that the subsequent shots were not justified once any threat had been removed.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff Wetzel said that the law doesn't permit you to execute somebody once the threat is gone, which I agree. Yeah. In addition to his home surveillance system, Smith also recorded at least 6 hours of audio on a digital recorder in the basement of the residence. Prior to the break-in, he is heard saying, "In your left eye."
So my question is, he knew they were breaking in, and he set up a recording, he took the lights out, he sat in a chair and waited for them. Isn't that kind of like premeditated?
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
I don't see that as a self-defense. I feel like
just
that's
because
not.
He saw them drive by his house.
Right.
So that he knew they were coming.
Yeah, that's not.
So why don't you just call the police and be like, "Hey, these kids are being creepy around my house."
Right, or just draw the gun. Like, you don't have to shoot them. I'm sure they're teenage kids.
They're
going to draw the gun.
off.
They're going to be like, "Ah, shit."
Yeah.
And they're going to fucking run.
Following the shooting, Smith made a number of statements, including, "I am not a bleeding heart liberal. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess. Not like spilled food, not like vomit, not even like diarrhea, the worst mess possible. And I was stuck with it. In some tiny little respect, I was doing my civic duty. If the law enforcement system couldn't handle it, I had to do it. I had to do it.
He didn't give them a chance.
The law system couldn't handle her, and it fell into my lap, and she dropped her problem in my lap, and she threw her own problem in my face, and I had to clean it up." Smith's recorded statements, the evidence including he had planned the shootings, along with the excessive number of shots fired, led to Smith being charged with second-degree murder. Smith was initially charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. However, in April of 2013, he was indicted on 2 accounts of first-degree murder. Bail was set for $50,000, which Smith posted. So he was on trial in April of 2014, and the audio recordings were named by the jurors as the biggest influence on their decision. That was the most damning piece of evidence in my mind, one of the 12 jurors said following the trial. the audio recording and the actual killings and the audio recording of Mr. Smith's interview immediately after his arrest pretty much convinced me that we were dealing with a deranged individual. Following his conviction and sentence of life imprisonment, Smith appealed to the Minnesota Supreme Court on March 9, 2016. The Minnesota Supreme Court affirmed Smith's conviction and sentences. In November of 2018, Smith's attorneys filed a federal appeal citing a brief closure of the trial to the public as grounds for Smith's conviction to be set aside, which, if granted, would necessitate a new trial. The federal district court denied relief, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit affirmed. So,
those are our Thanksgiving Day murders.
Yes. So whether you're eating turkey, deer,
vegetarian,
your husband, whatever floats your boat.
Because, it's so sweet.
It's so
sweet.
Those
barbecue ribs.
Mm-hmm. We hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And you're surrounded by family and friends and loved ones.
Mm-hmm. We hope you have fun. I know my family always has fun. Like, we play board. We used to, back in the day, before everybody started going with their own separate families.
Mm-hmm. It's harder as you get older and everybody has their own thing going on.
We would be at my grandma's house and we would play like Pictionary and Uno and just a whole bunch of board games at the table, and then other people would be watching football, and then my aunt would go around with her camcorder talking about what are you thankful for, and then she's like, and then Santa's coming next month, and she would do this whole thing, and it was really cool. So this year is going to be at my sister's house, and everybody, like my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad, me, my other sister, my brother, and I don't know if her in-laws. I'm assuming her in-laws will be there too, but yeah, that's all I'm doing this. And then my dad's after that. Those are my plans. What are your plans?
This year, we switch off now on holidays between my husband's family and my family. So this Thanksgiving is his family, because we did Easter at my family.
Okay.
So we're going over to his aunt and uncle's, and we've only been there a couple times for Thanksgiving, because Robbie works retail. So a lot of times he had either to go in Thanksgiving night to set up for Black Friday, or they would be open Thanksgiving evening for their sales. So I usually would just go to my parents then. So we've only actually been to his family's a couple times, and then we would do his mom's like the Friday after or that weekend after to celebrate with her.
Yeah.
But when I have been there, they usually have sports on the TV, and everybody's just sitting around chit-chatting, eating stuff in their face.
Well, also, Wednesday, so tonight, or whenever you're listening to this, since my son's birthdays was yesterday, he asked my mom, when are you making beef and noodles? And my mom said, when's the next holiday? And he said November 26th, which is his birthday, and everybody lost it. So she's making it beef and noodles, and we're having cake for my stepdad, and because my stepdad's birthday is the 28th and Ezra's is the 26th. So we're having cake and ice cream and beef and noodles and mashed potatoes and pizza for the kids who don't like that stuff at my other sister's house Wednesday, and then my sister's house on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Yeah. So it'll be a busy 2 days, because after that I don't got shit to do and I ain't doing shit.
Yep.
So,
and thankfully we're at Notre Dame now, so we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Actually, it feels like we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because we get off at 12:30.
Yeah.
So we have the rest of the day.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yes.
And I have Aurora's school thing on Tuesday.
Does she have school Wednesday?
No, they're out.
Okay,
Wednesday,
that's
Thursday.
what I thought. Most schools are out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and go back to school Monday.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us.
If you have any stories you want us to research, or if you yourself have some tales of, I don't know, fairy doing it and glitches in the matrix, alien abductions, whatever
Ghost stories,
kind of stuff you're into.
killers. I guess if you want to send us a happy one, we can cover that too.
Yeah.
To appease the boyfriend gods. But yeah, like you can send them to
our email, which is spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com.
or
you can go onto our website and submit it there, along with checking out our merch and other episodes. There's a link to other episodes and our bios on there. And you can look at pictures from our photo shoot in October when we did spooky ghosts and witches in the graveyard.
Yes.
But our website is www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com.
Find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Yes. We're on all the things.
All the things.
And I think that's it.
I think that is it. So please share, subscribe,
like this, comment,
tell your friends, tell your family. Send us stories.
Tell your family at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Be like, I listened to this wonderful episode on the dark history of Thanksgiving and some murdering family gatherings that happened,
So send us your stories. We like to hear from you. Talk to us. Anything, guys, anything. We like doing this, so it's our pleasure.
Yes, it is. Well, we hope you liked it. We hope you come back. And most of all, we hope you keep it spooky. Bye, guys.
Bye.